Roberto Villasenor is the police chief of Tucson, Arizona. He is not crazy about this law, although he's got a job to do, and if he has to enforce it, he will. Mark Spencer is the president of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. He does support the law. Gentlemen, my thanks to both of you for being with us. Chief, let me begin with you. Are you uncomfortable? Because this is the charge. In fact, this is the word usurp that's being used by critics of this law. So I'll throw it out at you. Are you a little uncomfortable usurping the duties that have previously been reserved for federal agents, for the federal government?
Well, actually, Rick, I'm very uncomfortable with that, and I believe that that is the position of the majority of chiefs in Arizona. The Arizona Association of Chiefs of Police was the only entity that actively lobbied against this legislation before it was passed. Our concern is that local law enforcement should not be assuming the responsibilities of federal immigration enforcement.
All right, Mark, let me just bring Mark into that. Mark, do you agree? Are you a little uncomfortable with the fact that suddenly the local cops are going to be doing and the state cops are going to be doing something that used to be reserved for the feds?
No, absolutely not. All this bill is we've had a policy in place in Phoenix for 2 years. We have test-driven this statute for 2 years successfully in Phoenix. And it does not mandate that police officers engage in routine immigration enforcement. What it does do, though, it allows officers to make a discretionary phone call to ICE to verify a person's status and to allow ICE the option to take disposition. We've test-driven this statute for 2 years successfully. So 3,000 people have been deported without any additional cost to the cities.
Man, you're giving me talking points. And let's go back to the question that I asked you.
Okay.
Do you believe that it's appropriate for the locals to be doing the jobs of the feds? And why? Why do you think at this point in time in the state of Arizona, this drastic step has to be taken?
Well, certainly the local authorities at a city or state level need to be given the ability to partner with feds. We do in bank robberies, we do with counterfeiting, we do with the DEA, but when it came to illegal immigration, it was forbidden. The federal government's failing on the border, as I'm sure the chief in Tucson can understand, and we would agree on that. If they're going to fail and not do their job, then give local law enforcement the ability to facilitate the success of the federal government in addressing the crime of illegal immigration.
How about that argument, Chief? He's saying, look, they're just not getting the job done, and we got to help our own state and our own people here, so we got to step in and do it.
I do agree with the fact that the federal government has not taken care of the immigration problem. That's why we're at where we are today. I disagree with the fact about that this law just allows law enforcement officers to take enforcement action. It actually requires law enforcement officers in the scope of a legal contact to determine immigration status. That's a whole new bent on the law, and that's an unfunded mandate that local law enforcement and local communities are not able to accept.
Mark, is it a bad precedent? I mean, do you want to be going into areas that were previously withheld for the feds? Here, let me give you an example. What's the biggest economic problem in the United States today? Immigration, or the problems we had on Wall Street and the problems we have with mortgages in this country?
Well, Rick, I guess you'd have to ask that question at a police funeral from an officer that's been murdered by an illegal alien, or at the sentencing hearing of parents of 5 young girls in Chandler's who have been raped by illegal aliens, or at the rancher's funeral at the southern border when he was murdered by an illegal alien. I guess when you're on the front lines in the state that's taking the brunt with 4 murdered officers, 4 seriously injured officers, that question and the priority of that question takes on a different meaning.
But is that fair? I mean, what you just did right there is you took specific examples of crimes that have happened. I can give you examples as well, couldn't I? And couldn't most Americans? I could take you to Detroit and show you incidents that have been caused in the inner city there by African Americans. I can take you to Miami and show you incidents that have been caused by Hispanic Americans of Cuban descent. I can take you to Boston and show you as many incidents as you just described that have been taking place by either Irish Americans, etc. So the idea that you could just say, well, but look, there was an illegal alien on the corner of 5th who once did something, to try and stir anger against a whole generation or group of people, I'm just questioning if that doesn't create almost a sense of xenophobia.
Well, and I look at your comments, Rick, and a common theme throughout your comments were they were Americans. They had legal authority and a legal right to be here. You know, criminality is not based upon the color of a person's skin. It's based upon conduct. And being in this country illegally is a choice. It's not driven by a skin color. So people who have the right to be here need to be addressed in that fashion.
But you get my question. I think this is what I was alluding to earlier was, and just to be fair, are you also going to start usurping the mandate of the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission? After all, they haven't done their jobs either, have they? And they almost created, as a result of not doing their jobs, many would argue, the next Great Depression in the United States. Is it time for the states to step in and start hitting the bankers and hitting investors?
Well, Rick, understand, once again, this does not mandate local law enforcement engage in routine immigration enforcement. What it does mandate is to tell police chiefs to get out of the way with policies that restrict interaction with the federal government so that the feds can do their job. When you had a restrictive policy that said an illegal alien needs to be given an opportunity to commit another crime, to create another victim, to cause more damage, enough was enough for us in Arizona, and we were going to be proactive.
But you know what the problem is, and I think some people will hear your argument, and Chief, you can help me out here. I know you have a serious problem with the illegalities involved with people crossing the border and coming to the United States illegally. And there's no one who could disagree with you there. You're absolutely right. But your last couple of statements have made it sound like the only thing that people who have come to this country undocumented do is kill and murder and destroy lives of police officers, etc. I mean, that's what your tone sounds like. Chief, am I hearing that?
I agree completely. We're using emotional anecdotes to paint a broad brush to try and justify a law which puts law enforcement officers in a very difficult position. We haven't defined all the elements of this law. It does mandate certain actions on the part of local law enforcement that have never been mandated before.
Right.
It also leaves a lot of definitions that are unexplained, such as in illegal contact. Proponents of this bill are saying that this will only take effect when you have already stopped someone for some type of illegal activity, be it a crime or a traffic violation or something of that nature. In reality, the bill says that in the course of a legal contact, legal contact for a law enforcement officer is responding to a crime victim, talking to a witness, talking to people on the street. Those are all legal contacts.
So you're saying the way the law is written right now, all you have to do is respond to a place where someone's a victim.
And then if we develop reasonable suspicion, we are required to check on their legal status.
Yeah, it is legally a perplexing question that I'm sure, look, the key is come up with something that works. And good for Arizona for trying to come up with something that works because the federal government has not done so. And I think we're all in agreement that. Hey, Mark, I enjoyed the conversation. Let's get you back and do this again, okay?
We'll do it again, Rick. Thanks.
Chief, same here. Same to you, sir. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
All right.